put out another announcement on the reflectors. Just an idea.
Yeah, remind your buddies.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the August 19th, 2021 meeting of TDXS, our monthly meeting. I'm Doug, W9LCQ. I'm the Texas DX Society Secretary, and I'm sort of the host for this meeting. We want to get right into the program, but I got one announcement before we get going too far. Is a reminder that the Texas QSO party is coming up next month. I think about 1 month from now, the 18th and 19th of September. And you can find the rules, routes, resources, etc. on txqp.net. And hopefully some of you guys will get out there and do roving. I'm going to do roving with the same guy I did for the last couple years, Chris Norris, N8AI. We'll probably go to half a dozen counties between here and Corpus Christi, something like that. Any other business? Okay, well, we have a special treat this month. John Stratton, N5AUS, who is our ARRL West Gulf Director, asked to meet with us and talk about the current status and future of Logbook of the World. It's not just for DX. If you're chasing WAS, VUCC, CQWPX, or CQWAZ, all the TWs are the fastest and easiest way and cheapest way to confirm new entities. So with that said, I'll turn it over to John. Good evening, John.
Everyone, thanks for letting me come and darken your doorstep. Logbook of the World is an issue right now. It is 20 years old. It has not had any major changes or improvements in 20 years. The architecture is so far out of date, I think we have to go back to the medieval ages even to try and figure out how the code's written. When it crashed in 2011, and we went to see what was wrong with it, we found that the people who had originally written it put a maximum number of QSOs in it. It's the reason it crashed. No one knew that because no one at headquarters was paying attention to it. And one of our IT guys found it by accident. The good news, they didn't erase anything, just went to a do loop. That was the good news. The bad news is when we started looking at the program, we found there was no documentation for it at all. Dave Bernstein came in with some others and helped get it stable again, but it's still 20 years old. The software is still poorly written. And, okay, let's fix it. It's just software, right? The problem is the cost. The league's got a $15 million a year annual budget, give or take a few $100,000 every year. We have 37 million in reserves, but most of the reserves and the endowments are restricted. We can't spend it for operational expenses. This year, we'll take probably $1 million loss in operational expenses. That's because of reduced advertising, repairs on the building. We've got new employees. We're trying to pick up the marketing efforts after COVID. COVID hurt everybody and it hurt us. So we have no extra money lying around to do what we need to do. I mean, it's not just Logbook of the World. The internal software, the databases we have, those are over 20 years old. The primary database, the SAP database, it's not even supported anymore. It routinely crashes. And we keep whistling past the graveyard, hoping it doesn't crash to the point we can't recover it. We've got a brand new software program that we're trying to transition everything over to it. It may go live in September. We're betting probably in the fall. We've been working on it for 18 months and we spent high six figures just to transition everything over to it. We've still got the VEC software to update. The website, I don't even get started on it. The website will take probably $1 million to fix. We've got lifelong learning programs. We've got legislative programs. It's just, we have not enough money to do what we need to do. And it all needs to be done at once to get us into the 21st century. But Logbook of the World is a flagship product. And We keep it running, but we keep running into issues because of the software being as old as it is. But we lose 250,000 a year on Logbook of the World. We've got about 148,000 users, I think 209,000 accounts. But as I pointed out, the income that comes in off Logbook of the World doesn't cover the operating cost. We're not going to quit, but we're still losing 250,000 a year. You couple that with we're short on funds for all the projects, and there's no margin for getting this fixed anytime soon, and it needs to be fixed badly. The way it's written, it doesn't lend itself to a quick fix or improvements. Everything's a major effort. When we added work to all continents, that was a major effort. It took a lot of time and effort to get it to work. Every time we add an award, the system slows down. For those of you who know something about software, this was written to process one user at a time. You can't multitask. We can't fix it. So when we look, you have a contest and everything loads up, it's literally single file. Everyone's just standing in line waiting for everything to process. We've changed some of the hardware. We put in solid state drives, which helped, but the more use we get, the more they're overtaxed. So we've looked at it to rewrite it. We can't fix it. We're going to have to rewrite it. Estimate is it'll take 18 to 24 months. And the cost is estimated to be over $1 million to do it. Websites at $1 million too. But we're going to have to upgrade it. As poorly written as it is, if we keep running with it, it's crippled sooner or later. It's going to do something and it's not going to be pretty. We've backed up the data, but still, if it crashes, if it crashes to the point that we can't fix it, we've got a major issue because everyone in the world relies on it. We want to do a new user interface. We want to be able to directly upload rather than going through TQSL. Two-factor authentication is not even within the scope of the current architecture. Everyone wants new awards, so do we. One of the things we'd like to do is make it multilingual. And we'd like to be able to make it stable by putting it up in the cloud so we have the ability to go hot if we lose one of the servers, which we can't do right now. So the question is, how do we get there without waiting for another 3, 4, 5 years to develop spare resources? And
Is CQ magazine kicking at anything at all?
sir,
Is CQ kicking at anything at all?
nope, we're on our own. The idea that I'm about to discuss with you is mine. Kristen McIntyre, who's on the Logbook of the World Committee, is working with me on it, but this is kind of an official, unofficial effort to determine how do we get this done this century. My thought is that the Logbook of the World community wants it to be improved and would support the effort to do it. So what I've started doing is going from club to club, DX club to DX club, contest club to contest club, and trying to find out if what I think is true is true. What I think is true is if we were to come out and ask all the users to donate money, money would be used for nothing but rewriting Logbook of the World, that the user community would donate. I've gone from Washington State, Oklahoma, Texas, I forget where else we've gone. We haven't hit the East Coast clubs or West Coast yet. I'm waiting for the schedules for PVRC and Yankee Clipper and some of the others. But so far, when I've pitched this to all the clubs, the response has been 100% support. Because what I've proposed is this, that we will announce a program where we are going to rewrite it as a priority project, not when we get more money, but we're going to rewrite it as soon as we raise the funds from the users. And when I've asked, okay, John, Mike, Alan, whichever club I'm in, would you be willing to support, make a donation, and how much would you be willing to give? I did this in Oklahoma one time, and I started out pitching it differently. I said, by the way, we're losing $250,000 a year. It's a neat program, but at $250,000 a year, we can't afford it, so we're going to shut it down in 3 months. It got real quiet. At that point, I said, okay, before turning it off, how much would you pay? I think a third of the room said $100 right now. And what's interesting is just without saying we're going to cut it off, which we're not. It's been fairly common. A lot of the clubs I've talked to, people will they'll donate 100. Some people said 500. We've got numbers all the way from 25 up. Pick a number.
These are one time or annual?
That's the key. It's a one-time donation. We obviously can make it a mandatory annual fee. We don't want to do that. We want to get it written, and then we'll adjust the monetization. We can do that, but we can't with the current structure. So it will break even on itself. We're not trying to make a profit. We just want to break even. But the proposal is a one-time donation. All the monies will go into a fund for nothing but rewrite a law book of the world. And Kristen's committee, the law book world committee, is now talking to people, getting bids to do what we want to do. We haven't got final bids because we haven't found developers we can rely on yet. And part of that is they're still writing the proposed feature set that we want the software programmers to produce. But the idea would be one-time donation, not a fixed amount. And we use the money to do Law Book of the World now, not 5 years in the future. So the question I've got for all of you is, I know you think I'm crazy, but do you think this idea is crazy?
No.
No, I think it's a good idea, and I think you should also solicit clubs to make
Actually,
donations as well as
Alan,
individuals.
Alan, that's dead on point, because what I started out doing is just looking for individuals. But what has happened is that most of the clubs have said, can we make a donation too? Of course you can. And some of the larger clubs said, look, we're just going to get everybody together. We'll make a big club donation. Fine, we'll do it. So some people have asked what we do about the foreign users. But if I'm right, the cost of sending a QSL card from London to Rotterdam, pick up anywhere to the US is not any cheaper than sending it over there. And again, it's not mandatory. It's a voluntary donation. And
How much voluntary donation average would you need to have out of the general active membership in order to make a difference, to make what you need? $5 from everyone, $100 from everyone?
I'll be happy to take 1,000.
Oh, let's be reasonable.
By the way, in one of these meetings, I forget, I don't know if it was William at one of the other meetings, we were talking about this and someone was very enthusiastic. He said, I'll give you $1,000. He got real quiet when I reminded him that it was a recorded meeting.
By the way, the recording's on here too.
Yeah, but the answer, Doug, is that if you assume we have 49, around 150,000 users, assume you get a third who will donate. I think the number is going to be a lot higher, but assume a third. Assume your average donation is $25. That's $1,250,000.
Yeah, it's not much at all.
And if what I've been hearing from most of these meetings is accurate, serious users come in at $50 to $100 because it's a one-time donation for a lifetime. We'll raise the money. The target would actually be to raise $2 million. That way we'd have extra money to maintain it, because as you know, it's not the purchase of the software or the computer that's important. It's the maintenance of the puppy. So actually, several of the clubs have said, okay, the software guy said, what are you gonna do to maintain it? And I said, okay, what do you want to do? And almost, I'd say 50, 60% of the clubs said, charge an annual maintenance fee, say $5. Every year everyone pays them $5 to keep going, which again, would easily pay for the puppy and keep it going.
How many people are members of QRZ that pay him a XML fee or something like that?
Yeah. I mean, how many he has? I don't know. I'd have to ask Fred how many he's got.
No, I'm just saying this group right here. You know, it's not much money at all on an annual basis.
Nope, not at all. Plus, I think it'd be good to put a donate link on every page.
I'm on the
Yeah.
Texas DX Society M Radio Club Zoom.
Yes, you are. But if you put, in addition to the club donation, the individual donation, just put a donation button. People can donate whenever they want, however much they want.
What we're going to do, Alan, is we're going to, I think the first set of meetings on the East Coast with PVRC. And then we'll hit Northern California Yankee Clipper for certain.
Mhm.
If after that we see the same level of support, like I said, it's been 100%, then we're going to sit down at the board level and it's going to become a formal program. Before we propose it to the board and made it a formal program, what I said is let's go find out if the users will support it. So far, of course, the answer is yes. It will then become a formal program, and you're right, we'll have donation pages. There'll be a big push campaign, mail-outs, everything to get the word out to all the users and set up a formal way to donate to it, kind of like a March of Dimes thing. The target would be, if we can get the club meetings done next month in October, is to come back around and set up as a formal program in January, make it run then. Because it will become since we're not going to write it in-house, we don't have the software people. I mean, we don't have anyone currently working for us that can do a database search and analysis. We wanted to find out some information from the member database. Simple search, right?
Mm-hmm.
Nobody at headquarters could do it.
And just to be clear, that's not included in the scope of what we're talking about here. We're not
talking.
talking about the membership database here.
Oh, no, I was just making a point that we have no one at headquarters has the software ability to do that. No, all this money is going to be put in one fund, Logbook World. That's it.
Okay,
If there's
Does
any
that
money left
include
over, I'll go to Frida shopping with it, but other than that.
does that include interfaces and replacement of the existing award software?
Everything.
I'm sorry?
It's a complete rewrite of everything.
Well, because, okay, and that, so
Everything
Logbook of the World is,
None
Logbook
of
of the
those
World
software
is,
would work on.
Logbook of the World is one piece, and then the award stuff is a different piece, really.
Well, the
There's
awards
interfaces to it, but
Yeah, the awards are included as part of this. We're treating it as one big package to do.
okay.
Because otherwise it'll crash on itself. We don't do that.
Well, I asked it at our meeting the other day. I guess there were several things. One was how many people are satisfied with, and of course, there's all kinds of other things going on here, but how many people are satisfied with what's there now is from a user standpoint. Everybody that was a regular user was satisfied with what's there now. Okay, so again, the point is, yes, it's not sustainable, but from a standpoint of what's there now, there's not any really big reason to change what we see as users. There is every reason to not change what we see as users because it means everybody has to learn something new.
No, you won't. The intent is to make it far more user friendly, make it easy to use.
Well, okay, the people, okay. Yeah, I understand that, but does that mean changing things? Yes, and there's the rub.
Well, here's what's going to happen. By the way, Rick, your comment is not the first one we've heard. Some people have said this. We've asked some folks. They went, well, it works. The problem with saying it works is it works for now. It will collapse.
Well, I understand that, but I'm just trying to say from the user side, there's no reason that anybody that I know of can see to change anything of what they see. It's kind of like what happened with the rewrite of the ARRL web pages. One day it was the old stuff and the next day it was the new stuff and everything was in somewhere else and impossible to find and that kind of thing. And that's where I would be concerned.
That's a fair concern. The web page, the contract to do that, Alan, how many pages does the contract take for getting logbook, for getting the webpage rewritten? Wanna
Oh, I
guess?
don't know. 1,000? I don't know. One page? I don't have no idea.
Well, and
One
you
page.
understand,
It was the estimate for doing it. That was the sole contract.
Oh, really? And no parameters.
No parameters, no
For-
deliverables. And the webpage or the entire website hard coded. We were for a long time having to pay Fathom, who wrote it, every time we made any change. That's how stupid it was at headquarters. Fathom has abandoned the project. We're on our own. So changing anything on that website is a major effort, and some of it we can't even do because the coding won't let us do it.
and
So,
your which website are you talking about? The ARRL one or the logbook of the world one?
ARL.
Okay.
I mean, the reason we're using Google to search that website is a search program written for it. Absolutely doesn't work.
Well, and my point really is you got to be careful about changing stuff that people perceive as being what they want. As what they have right now works for me.
It works, but what we can tell everyone is it's going to stop.
Well,
It's a patchwork program. It's going to crash. And when it does, I mean, we got lucky in 2011, but this is kind of like a Disney cartoon. We keep putting patches on to keep it stable, and we can't expand it. So people want more awards. We can't do it. We're trying to fix it for DXCC, and that just, we spent a fortune. That collapsed because we can't fix what we have. The architecture is so bad. So can we keep what we got? You bet. Can we keep it stable? Probably for another couple of years.
And
But-
I understand what you're saying. You know, I only worked in data processing for 50 years, John. So
Did you haven't got a clue? You don't know anything, right?
yeah, and it's like, where does this stuff come from? No. So as long as you understand my point is that
No, I do.
yes,
It's a valid point.
people are willing to participate. It's just that there has to be something known about where we're going before people are going to.
Well, if John were not here tonight, I would not know that there was an issue. So there's probably 95% of the other LOTW users are just like me. They have no clue there's an issue.
You're, Scott and Rick, you're both right. The majority of the users don't know that we're running on 1930s tires with patches on.
They just complain when the it slows down on contest weekends.
Yeah,
Which
or
is-
it just goes
as
down.
far-
We'll
which
aim to
is-
keep it up 99% of the time, but
And you know, looking at what Dave wrote, going back through and seeing the committee reports and all that kind of stuff. The fact that it's 2 days behind is really managing expectations as opposed to a problem that needs to have $2 million spent on it. The problem that you talk about is
not the estimated cost, but it'll
Yeah,
take a lead to do it.
the thing you're talking about is making it so that it's not dead in the water as opposed to some expectations that can be managed. Right.
We're also running into a problem that the user support system we've got, it's not sustainable itself. We can't keep it going. Everyone on this screen has it functioning. No, you know how to make it work. You're happy with the way it's functioning. But to expand it, well, some of us are, some are not, but trying to get new users on it, it's a major effort to get a lot of people onto it because it's not user friendly and it's not intuitive. And again, as Doug pointed out, every time we add someone, it gets slower. We try and add awards. It's a major software effort. It doesn't really work well. Were we to be, if we rewrite it, we can do almost anything we want because it's not going to be written in 1980s software.
Well, I think
But-
if I could interject, I think what's going to happen is you got people that like it, you got people who don't like it. It's functioning, but it's not going to forever. It's inevitable that you got to do something, And it's also inevitable that when you make the change that costs whatever it costs, there's going to be some changes in the interface. And every program in the world, when they upgrade, there's changes in the user interface. So I think we're going to have to expect that to happen and live with what we get. Not everyone will be happy about it, but some will. So,
And I have one other comment about what Alan said was,
Yes, sir.
you have to, my feeling is that there's no point in trying to rewrite things to make it easier for people who aren't current users to use it. If that's not a problem for somebody who really wants to use it, it may be a headache. It may take them a little time, but it's not. It's the people that are current users that have to be the ones that decide where it's going. And you don't write this thing to make it easier for, just specifically make it easier to get new users. That's a secondary consideration, but that's not the primary consideration that I would have.
The
That's a
primary
fair
considerations
comment.
that it work on the backside.
I'm
To me,
sorry, sir.
to me, the primary consideration is that it works on the backside. It's
And
the
it's
stable.
supportable.
It's supporting. If I don't really care as much as if it changes in the front side or not, as long as I can learn it. But it's the backside part that's really important.
And let me, Rick, let me come back to your comment. Scott, you and Rick made much of the same point that not everyone knows what the current condition is because the league hasn't told them. But sooner or later, we're going to have to tell everyone where we really are because we keep getting requests to add this, to add that. We can't. And sooner or later, it's going to wake up one morning and kill itself. Not soon, because we're working on it, but part of what we would be doing with this is explaining to the world. And we will explain, half the users on Logbook World are outside the United States. And we're picking up a lot of foreign users. I think Indonesia has been in terms of area, it's been our largest growth in the past, I think, 6 months. So do we have to expand it, Rick? We don't. Are we writing it just to attract new users? No. We're writing to make it stable. The purpose of making it easier to use is we reduce the load on headquarters, try and explain to people how to use it. I mean, when we have a booth somewhere, people come up and go, can you tell me how to fix this problem? And everyone here is great and you know how to make it work. There are those who are not, I mean, kind of, dumb like me, like a lawyer, who aren't that skilled at it. So it's not a marketing effort. Now, the result of it, by making it easier to use, is that more people will want to use it. The more
That's
that do use it, it will pay for itself. We have 159,000 members. And that's a fixed revenue stream. We're doing a number of things at headquarters to alter that revenue stream. We do not want to raise dues. We're fighting everything not to. So we're trying to get better revenue streams. You'll see some of this coming out in next month. And a side point is the league is completely changing where we're going. We can talk about that separate, but we're trying to make it more financially stable. We're changing an investment policy programs to raise our earnings. The purpose is to be able to provide more programs for the members and the clubs.
So for Logbook of the World, you're proposing or suggesting a one-time upgrade donation plus a very small annual subscription. Is that correct?
Maybe not even annual subscription. If once we get it finished, we'll have a better financial picture of where everything is. It may not be an annual subscription fee at all. If so, it won't be much of anything, but we're working on voluntary donations to rewrite it. There will be change, but the changes will not be difficult. The object is to make it easy. If you go from this one to the new one, you go, oh, that's simple. It's going to be made. The intent is to make it that easy, but we're not going to write it if it's not.
So there's two questions. One
Sure.
is how much rewriting do you think all of the applications, the logging applications would have to do?
The part of the rewrite of this will make it easy. It will be developing the interfaces with every logging program. So when it goes live, every logging program will work with it, because we'll be working with the developers of the logging programs. So no, and we're not going to leave anybody behind on that. We can't.
So you expect that everybody that has a logging program will have to change to talk to the new one, the new Logbook of the World interface?
I'm not expecting they're going to have to change, but we're intending to change to meet them. I mean, we're writing the software so we can write it so it will meet their APIs.
Well,
Okay.
so that was my question. The idea is to, as much as is possible, not have to change the logging software's APIs.
No,
Okay,
we're not going to make them do it. We're going to do it and work with them to make sure we get it right.
well, okay. If they change their code, then I have to upgrade. I have to get
Well,
a new
if-
version of their code.
If you've got a logging program, they change their code after we write this, then we're going to have to get with them and modify it so it works. But we're not going to make them change just to fit with us. We're going to make this program work with them.
Okay, I understand. So the point,
It's
the
upgraded.
point is you're going to try to make it so that the same APIs that they're using now, within reason, of course, will work with the new version of Logbook of the World.
Yeah, everybody working on this has their favorite logging program. Most of them use the same, but it's their favorite logging program, and they don't want us to screw that up either.
Right. Well, and there's
Well,
lots
I
of
know.
logging programs that aren't supported anymore that still work. Right. That still work,
Yeah.
but there's nobody supporting them, and that's going to be an interesting mess too. Okay. But that's good.
If their logging program's been abandoned, there's a limit to how much we can fix that. So
I agree. And I guess the other one is, you mentioned it before, but the certificates and that kind of thing. Do you feel like that's going to be continued?
it will be.
And I think that's reasonable. I don't have,
We're not going to get rid of anything. We're going to try and make it better.
well, and just, I'll comment and then I'll let
Except for
other people comment.
Except for Doug, we'll probably eliminate his FTA.
Take his certificate away. No, Rick
Revoke it.
Murphy, I just want to say kudos to Rick Murphy for all he's done for TQSL. And it's so much easier now than it was 15
yeah.
years
Oh,
ago.
yeah.
So, all right, somebody else's turn.
John, you have not talked anything about security and ransomware, which is probably a bigger threat to the database than most people are even thinking about.
You want me to scare you?
Uh,
Yeah, go ahead, scare us.
Things are getting more sophisticated by the day and the month.
Headquarters has been breached twice. Once by the Chinese, once by the Ukrainians. This happened about 5 years ago, and 1 to 3 years from the other. And if you want to ask me how they did it,
Sure, go ahead.
the Apache servers, the software we've got had not been updated. I think we were 12 cycles out of updates.
Oh,
The people who were there doing that aren't there anymore.
Mhm.
That's one reason we want to roll into the cloud and get everything out of these headquarters servers. And of course, part of what, when we write the software is going to be, we're trying to build in as much security as we can. But you're right. Ransomware is a real scary thought.
Well, and it's on one hand, it's like what you would think that the smart ransomware people are going to ask for ransom from somebody who has something to give, as opposed to, yes, the league has resources that they could ransom, but
Yeah, I think you should put a little disclaimer on there. It said, why bother?
yeah.
Pick on somebody your own size, yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's still absolutely consideration, but okay.
That's one of the reasons we've changed the backup system that we had in 2011. Would you like to tell me what the offsite backup system was?
Magnetic tape.
I wish.
Wasn't tape?
Pick up a computer and carry it
Probably
away.
didn't have one.
The backup was 4 drives in a box in the basement of W1AW, and that basement floods, by the way. and they were not hot swappable.
Oh, boy.
So when it crashed, David and I went up there and we sat down with the head of IT and went, I think because I think I was president of CPDS at the time. I mean, I have a basic question before I get lynched. And that is, what are we doing for backup? And there's this long silence. So the short version of getting the long silence to end is we found out there was no backup. Who was it? Marty Wall out of California and someone else along with us through what can only be described as a hissy fit. We made it very clear to the staff that ended right then. And took us 6 months to increase the bandwidth for headquarters, get the backup. I think we're backing up now. As if every 15 minutes we get an incremental backup. We back up every night. We back up every week. We're doing full backup. So if we get hit, assuming the backups aren't compromised, we're never going to lose, at least on local world data, and the internal data won't be lost to it. Good.
Right. And it would be it would be difficult for somebody to raise big enough stink about you're not doing due diligence if all you have is a 15-minute window of possible outage or possible data loss.
So is your backup to the cloud or is it to a local drive?
It's backing up into the cloud Rackspace.
Good.
And I believe it's set up so the Rackspace has got multiple servers. We've got multiple locations. So you wipe out one set of Rackspace servers. We don't care. They do. We don't.
Don, if you set up something like you're talking about to have a bucket for LOTW, is that going to be also easily interfaced if I want to put retirement money into it for tax deduction?
You're asking, can you make it a tax deductible donation?
Yes.
The answer is yes, because the league is a 501c3 and this is a league project. So any money donated to it is a 501c3 donation. It's tax deductible.
Okay.
And it'll be a standing fund or something like that.
Yeah,
It-
we'll set it up
Dedicated fund.
as fun just for this.
But it'd be something that there's a goal for short term and then it's there for continuing if you want to do that.
We'll set a target. We'll have a timeline for the proposed development. And because we can't fund it without raising the money, the money's just going to go into the fund. If we can't raise it, then we're going to have to figure something else out. But you can, when I get off the screen, you can laugh and you go, he's not really very, very bright. But based upon what I've been hearing from everyone we've talked to, I don't think there's a problem raising the money. Not everyone's going to give us $1,000, bless their heart. But like I said, if you just get an average of 25 from everybody, we're at $1,250,000. And that's the base number we think it will take to get it done. The intent is not to wait 5 years. It's just start right.
So I guess the other, there's got to be something for people to see about what the goal is.
That will be what we'll, if we can confirm, like I said, we haven't been able to talk to the big clubs yet. I don't expect them to be any different than TDXS or.
I'm sorry, I don't mean the dollars. I mean, what is the goal for the project as far as what's going to be addressed, redone, something that says here's the scope, that kind of thing.
That will be, when we come out with the programs and we've got the support, that's going to be part of this. Is what we're intending to do. These are the targeted features. This is the target timeline. Because otherwise it's, buying a pig and a poke and
right.
Put money into that. So.
Well, remember pigs and hams. Wait a minute. Yeah. So are we talking about this time next year to have some time to move on?
The intent, Rick, is to hit the bigger clubs by October. We've talked to enough actual members around the country to know. I've got our FCC council is very well connected to the British and German clubs, the bigger ones. We're just trying to arrange a talk with some of them, assuming that we've got enough support, not just in the US, but outside. Then the details of this be worked out with a plan to announce it after the first of the year and start. I mean, assuming that we get it basically written in January, we'll announce it somewhere in probably February, worst case March.
Well, I have three things. One is and that's two things, is you addressed the two things that were my concern, which was how big a change are all of the applications that access, upload and download, whatever. So the intent at this point is to have minimal changes on logging applications and the tools that people use to get data and so on out of the database. And the other one was certificates and things like that, and not changing the whole identification process.
Yeah.
And so those two things, the rest of it is, if you can make it to where I've gone through the mess with the award stuff, starting with the old separate cards, have a card checker, the separate systems, and how do you merge it? And that's one of the, to me today, okay, I know it's not maintainable, but the documentation that Dave wrote for Logbook of the World has all the answers there. It's there. People just have a hard time reading. All of the stuff that Rick Murphy has done for TQSL is great. It's all there. But what is really at this point totally confused and disoriented and disjointed and whatever is all of the, how do you use it for, how do you do award applications? That's the part that needs the help. In addition to making it, you know, keeping it running.
It was obvious without having to read documentation.
Say again, Jeff.
It would be nice if all of it was obvious how to use without reading documentation.
Yeah, I have to admit that every time I go to use the awards portion, the application ever, I have to look at it a couple of times and scratch my head a little bit and say, now, how was that? I did that last time.
But the Logbook of the World and TQSL, if you can read and look at it, then it's there. The other stuff is a headache. But
I just push a button in N3SJP and it goes.
right.
Well, John, your discussion tonight has compelled me to want to do something. So but I'm sitting here wondering how many thousands of other people are going to be compelled. And so I'm thinking that perhaps if the league were to put together a short video describing the problem, as opposed to a mail out, like the Spectrum Defense Fund, you know, I get those things in the mail and sometimes they end in the trash, and other times, you know, I'll send in a few dollars. But in any event, if there is a video such as we're seeing tonight, maybe describing the issue and what you're trying to do, might add some compelling forces for folks to do something.
When we bring this out, it will be more than just a mail out. It will be a full court press videos, whatever we need to do to explain it to everyone and keep doing it. You're talking about interfaces. It might be of note that one of the people working on this is Kristen McIntyre. Anyone want to guess what Kristen helped write or create? She's an Apple senior engineer.
Oh,
She's one of the people responsible for Siri. You may speak Siri, but she's one of the people responsible for making it work.
Is she a ham?
Yes, she's director of the Pacific Division, which is Hawaii, Northern California, and I think Alaska. She's got Alaska. No, Northwest has got Alaska. I keep trying to get her to trade Hawaii to the West Gulf, and she won't do it. I
I have a comment about, you know, I started using telephones when you picked up the telephone and asked the operator to
Mhm.
connect you to Kathy.
Great.
No, I know crank ones, but this, you got the operator and asked
My
for,
grandmother's place in East Texas, by the way, but go ahead.
yeah, and I've seen the devices get to be where they can be so complex and the applications can be so complex as to be unusable. And that's where I would say is.
Not
you
for
have-
my kids. My kids will just do it every time.
Right,
Yeah.
well, and so parallel sidestep on that is what's happened with QST. And what's happened with QST is you open it up and you see that it's a online device document that's been forced into paper, as opposed to a paper document that's put into online readers or whatever else. Okay. I mean, you can just see it and it's flashy and it's whatever-y, but it's okay. I'm too old for this.
I don't get that view myself.
So
I agree.
So I just wanted to say that whoever is going to design this stuff has to be careful to not make it so flashy and whatever and so on, that it's so busy that you can't figure out what to do.
I can assure you with Kristen on this, I mean, I'm the guy who spells software if you let me write it down on a piece of paper. But the intent is that it will be, Jeff, as you point out, almost as simple as if you can look at it, you can make it work.
Okay. Because
Well, John, we've got several members of the board of TDXS on this call. And I guarantee you, I'm going to bring it up at the next board meeting, if not before, for some sort of a not insubstantial donation from TDXS to this cause.
and that's a good idea. And TDXS can do that. I guess one other thing to help John with his communication stuff is there a use for having a logbook of the world liaison between the club and whoever? An
Yeah,
identified communication person, or
that would be useful. Don't make the donation yet, because until the program becomes official, just hold on to the money. But
I understand, just so I can get a positive read from the board.
Can I ask how much? I'm late to this meeting, so I'm sorry, but how much money are we talking about that we need?
we're
All of
asking you
yours.
to send in 5,000, Ron. No,
much you
I'm
got?
kidding.
How
I'm
much you got,
kidding.
Ron?
it took a
So-
long run.
I'll send you a check tomorrow. Okay.
When you come late, you're gonna have to pay.
Yeah, I hear that.
I'll be quiet.
That's what my
Go-
bank says too. If I'm late, I got to pay the late fee. So
That's right. So you
Go
have to pay
ahead,
a late
John.
fee to this meeting.
John, go ahead and tell him.
Short answer, Ron, is that I'm trying to determine, along with Kristen and some other people working on Logbook of the World, because we have to rewrite it completely, and because of the cost, and because the league doesn't currently have the money to do it, rather than waiting years down the road when we get enough extra cash to rewrite Logbook of the World,
yeah,
also as we raise the money from the users, voluntary donations, to do it now. Target, they'll take over $1 million to rewrite it, so the target will be well over $1 million that we intend to raise. In terms of individual donations, our club donations, it's going to be all voluntary. There's no set amount. It's what everyone's willing to give. But the target is to end up with an average contribution in excess of $25. And the jokes that you're hearing, some people have actually have in these meetings offered 1,000 as a donation, some 500, some 100, some
Yeah.
50. It just varies on who wants to do it. So.
Well, I look at what we're, as TDXS is willing to give to donation to a Bouvet expedition. I think we could offer some reasonable fraction of that amount.
We got money in the bank.
Yeah, we got money in the bank.
So that
So John, I'm sorry, John, have you considered the aspect have you considered the aspect of the impact on individual members of a club thinking, well, I pay my dues to the club and they've made a significant donation, so that might stifle them from making individual donations?
That will happen. There will be people who say, well, my club's making donation, I'm not. But again, with 150,000 users, we know that we're going to see something like that. But with 150,000 users, there'll be enough donations, I think, to let us hit the mark.
Doug, prompt my memory. What's the biggest donation we've ever made to a DXpedition?
500 to my knowledge.
Okay.
Unless you go way back sometime before I joined the club.
I mean, we've also had, when Dave Top was donating some money for DXpedition, stuff like that, that was a separate fund. I think there was some more, maybe 1,000 to be that, which was separate. So, but anyway, I just did a quick thing. $25 times 40 members is $1,000. So that's within, I think, an easy reach of the club, because I know we have enough money in the club to, do something like that.
Yeah, for one time.
One time. And then, like I was talking about retirement money. I'd rather give some retirement money away instead of paying tax on it to the federal government for myself. So that's what I'm working with right now with my institution.
Well, and the people who have required minimum distributions.
Yeah,
you
exactly
might as well take it out and give it directly to 501 or whatever the number is.
So we make the check out to John Robert Stratton, right?
I'll and tell you how much fun it was. Yeah.
Development organization. I forgot something.
Okay, so John, we feel like, or I feel like the group is agreeing that this is a reasonable direction, reasonable request, direction for ARRL to take. I've watched, like I say, I've watched people tilting at Dave, we shall say, and he everything that I see from him is agrees with what you're saying as far as we need to do something yesterday, and what you see with the ARRL and all of the other nonprofits and so on is the money is, there's not going to be more money tomorrow. And so the only way we're going to do this stepwise fix it is a specific identified project with specific funding for it. And it needs to happen before it explodes.
Or because before we get all so old, we're in the nursing home, we can't use it anyway. So
Copy that.
Well,
Amen.
that was another comment about what was it? One of the guys that I used to work with, who was the manager, big manager, whatever, at Shell Oil. And we were talking with he was talking with the IBM folks, and they said, well, you're going to see it in your lifetime. And he said, you better watch out. I smoke 2 packs of cigarettes a day. So whatever. Yeah, there is that, there is that too, the whole set of who's a ham. And, if there's going to be those people who say, I don't, 3 years from now, I don't care. 5 years from so how do you feel about this discussion so far, John?
it is consistent with all the other discussions, and your comments, Rick, are almost identical to those of other people who have strong software backgrounds. Same questions, slightly different, same concerns. So this is in terms of result of the meeting, identical to the others. It ends up with what I perceive to be 100% support for the idea if we can put it together and make it work. which goes back to my argument at headquarters that we can do this and we shouldn't wait. But we're going to, as soon as we hit the big clubs, we're going to take, because I don't want them to come back and go, okay, all the smaller clubs will, but what are these going to do? We're going to answer that question for them, particularly I want to what the French will do and the Germans will do.
If you're interested, we'll send you the link to the recording of tonight.
Okay.
Yeah, Doug, could you send me that? Because I was late and I want to get the first part of the meeting, so appreciate
Sure.
that.
Is it coming out on the website anyway?
It'll be on the
Eventually be
website,
a link on the website.
Scott, where is it?
What was that, Doug?
Wake up, Scott.
Wake up, Scott.
The question was,
link to
the links to this video of tonight, the recording of tonight. Aren't there links to all of the meetings somewhere on the website?
Yes, TDX.net under the news, NEWS news menu, there's a YouTube link.
Yeah, TDXS.net. Yeah.
Okay. I'll find it.
Well,
Anything
so
else I can answer for everyone?
There may be some questions in the chat area you may want to address. I mean, some of them are just comments, but there's a few questions in there and
Let's bring the chat over.
might be addressable.
Oh, yeah. Chat's got 19.
For premium features, that actually has been a discussion. It's occurred twice. That will be part of the final program. Depending on the level of donations, will we create a premium category? We very well might. But that's on the list of things to consider when we put it together. And no, we don't have an in-house development team. Like I said, we don't have people who do data searches. The head of IT, I think the term is retired in the last 4 months.
Great.
We have no one there. And to be frank, we have no intention of trying to hire a development team inside headquarters. It is very difficult to get people to come to Newington to work. Everyone wants to go south and west. They do not want to come up there. Let's see. Commented, you know, some find just there's a comment on the interface. I agree with it, but comment about Ukrainians working with Russians, very possible. We don't know. The director of IT in Connecticut, the software team that will be doing this won't be in Connecticut. It'll be an outside professional group that we hire.
Be in the cloud.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the development people will be in the cloud.
There's no cloud. There's just somebody else's computer.
I mean, we've got a development project going now for Aries, rewriting a program that everyone uses for reporting, and it's being done offsite by outside programmers, and it's in the cloud. Otherwise, we've never gotten it written.
Yep. Copy that.
And no, they're not volunteers, we're paying them. One of the discussions that came up from several sources, could we use volunteers? Well, we've got some people like Rick that are extremely qualified to work on software, but trying to get enough volunteers in one place and coordinate them is just impossible. It's going to be a paid gig.
I agree.
What?
Well, you know, and that's part of the contract is here's the definition of the project, and they come back and say, here's what we're going to do it for. And then you have figure out what happens insurance wise, you know, if they don't meet the goal and so on.
And you absolutely need a plan for after it's built. You need to have a plan to hand it over to whoever's going to support it and some sort of direction for them on how to support the thing.
That will be part of the development project too.
Good.
And documentation.
Damn it. John, the original software I know was delayed because of cost overruns. You haven't mentioned that at all tonight.
Which software, I'm sorry.
Well, when LOTW first came out, I believe it was delayed 6 months, 9 months, a year, something like that, because of the software problems. involved with the very first batch. And there were cost overruns on the development. So, I mean, the same thing can happen today.
And by the way, who's your cooperator with the dark nose to your left?
Come on, get up here. Come on.
There you go.
There he goes.
10 years old.
And that's what I was saying, Mike, was that's part of the contract.
I mean,
By the way, when the local world was first developed, it was done as a lark. Headquarters paid a group of programmers in Hartford $200,000 to write it. 6 weeks after they were given the $200,000, they disappeared.
that's what it was. Okay.
So we had to start over. So.
Did you find him?
No, they didn't find them. You know, if it had been Texans doing this,
Yep.
we found them. But it's Yankees, they didn't do that. So
No,
Yeah.
bless their souls. Bless their
It
hearts.
happens.
Yeah, well, so
any other questions I can answer for y'all about anything, local world or anything else that we're doing?
Anything else on the horizon from the league that we're going to be watching out for?
There's a lot. We picked a new CEO. We hired, I don't know if we picked him or not, but we hired a new CEO. He is an active ham. He helped put together the Bon Air station, I believe. So he understands amateur radio. The previous two we had a license but didn't understand it, skipping all the other problems we had with the two previous two.
right.
So we are changing everything at headquarters because it needs to be changed. Like I said, the IT department was a joke.
Yeah.
We're decades behind on IT projects, so we don't really have a department anymore. We're looking to put everything outside with professional contractors. We had two standing committees that were responsible for the development of all programs. We now have three. We created a third one at the July board meeting. So you've got programs and services that deals with DX contesting, VEs, voluntary council. Then you've got the A&F committee that deals with administration and finance. The new committee is the Emergency Communications Field Services Committee. It now has responsibility for the first time in 12 years for all emergency communications matters in the field, section managers, SECs, and the clubs. Because we've never had I think we had two committees 12 years ago, one of which dealt with clubs. We haven't had that in 12 years. So support for the clubs and help from the clubs doesn't exist. So that's being recreated. But the league is completely spinning in direction. And
Good. About time.
And calling it the Titanic is not exactly right, but there has been an institutional attitude of the league for a long time that it was happy where it was. Not anymore. The new board is not happy with it at all. We're trying to force change and move in new directions.
Have you stopped the bleeding?
Which part of the bleeding?
Membership. The membership
Yes.
bleeding.
The membership is stable. Every time we raise the dues, you can predict about a 22% decline in membership. Give or take.
Wow.
22.
22. Every time it's happened, if you go back through and look at all the times we've done it.
Man, that's peanuts though. I just can't
Yeah.
believe that.
If you increase the dues 25 cents, we had a 22% decline. But this time we didn't go down 22. We went down, I think, 12, 15. So it's now swinging back up. It's predictable. It's swinging back up. Part of what we're doing is trying to get support to the clubs to increase membership. And same thing with income. I mean, 47% of the people get a license, get it to participate in income. You have to teach them about DX and contesting, but we're trying to hit all of the buttons for all the different groups we've got within the league, because not everyone wants to do what we want to do.
Right.
So it's a massive undertaking because we are a minimum of a decade behind. Minimum of a decade.
Yeah.
Years we're 2 decades behind.
John, have you discussed at all the $35 increase that the FCC is going to apply on us, how it's going to affect the league?
If I haven't discussed it tonight, but here's what we know about the $35 fee. It was supposed to have gone into effect by June. Obviously, it didn't. The latest we have from our FCC council is not going to go into effect next year. They cannot implement it until they have the backroom procedure set up, which they're not even close to doing, they being the FCC. We've argued that we shouldn't get a fee at all. I'll back up. On the Ray-Baum Act, Section 9A said that the FCC had the authority to waive any administrative fees. And we argued, okay, you can waive ours. We're a small group, we're volunteers. Look at the millions of dollars in help we give to everyone a year. They turned us down for the moment. The real issue with the $35 fee has come out in the past week. You want a vanity call? You apply. You send them $35. You don't get the vanity call. You don't get the $35 back.
Oh, gee.
So we're going to go back to this, like it just happened this week, because they haven't any clarity about what they're doing with the fees. So we were discussing this afternoon on with part of the board and the FCC council. We're going to go back to the FCC and see if we can get them to waive that. They have the authority to do it. Don't know if we're going to win, but we're going to try.
Am I correct in saying if you do the $15 exam fee, you're still going to have to pay a $35 license fee? So that's $50.
Yep. If you go to you don't have a license, you're going to go take your first exam, or you're going to upgrade. Doesn't matter. It's $15 fee if you're using an ARL VEC.
Right.
But you don't pay the $35 to VEC. That was one of our questions. One of the reasons they haven't implemented this is that the FCC intends to do this online. So you take the exam, you pass, you submit the paperwork. When they get the paperwork and process, they will send you a link. When you get the link, you then pay online. And that's not even close to being set up.
And when you pay online, you get a temporary operation, whatever license permit.
It needs to be instantaneous. You turn the paperwork in, they send you back a link, you pay, you've got temporary call, but it's not implemented. It's a major software project for them too.
And then they follow that up with the permanent information that this is a permanent license, and then you can go log on and print it.
Right.
Sounds like the FCC is about a decade behind the ARRL.
COVID put a bullet in the back of their head because they not only did COVID require them to get out of the building, they're moving out of the existing building to a new one.
Right.
And they've just started trying to move into it. So it's saying it's a clown show is pretty accurate. They have as much trouble as everybody else does right now. I mean, they don't have a full complement of commissioners at this point. You can't get things done.
And just to finish this up, the 35 is pretty much going to happen sometime, and it's every 10 years. And so the direct effect on ARRL is small.
So $3.50 a year. So let's not worry about that.
The league doesn't expect any adverse financial consequences to it. Will there be some people who want to spend $50 to get a license? Sure. But that number will be small enough. We're not worried about it.
Right.
I agree.
Looking at what equipment costs.
Sir?
Looking at what equipment costs.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You got that much, $35 disappears pretty quickly, and thinking about buying a rig. So forget that plan.
I spent more than that on wire.
Anything else happening in the league? The director is pretty stable now.
Is the director what? I'm sorry.
Stable.
Since some of them were unstable before.
Because they didn't have our best interest in mind.
Showing up at a board meeting is like throwing a rock in a pond. We have 30 people, 15 vote, and everyone's passionate about what we do, and there are disagreements. So it's always a fun meeting. Stable, Yes, we're not going through the, shall we say, shenanigans that we went through in 2016, 17, and 18.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I was referring to.
So what Doug is asking is, when did you stop beating your wife?
So can you see anything different about the relationship with the league and the FCC, or is that still about the same?
It's actually better. In 2019, when we got control of the board, when that means that we picked up 4 new directors, I became director, David retired. The philosophy from the West Gulf didn't change, and we both had the same view on this.
Right.
We fired our general counsel.
Yep.
We fired our lobbyists. We fired a number of people and hired a gentleman by the name of David Siddall, Siddall. David used to was an in-house attorney for the FCC. He actually was an attorney advisor for one of the commissioners. He worked at Congress, worked with Barry Goldwater for a while. His background in Washington is extensive. You and I can walk into the local McDonald's and order a hamburger. He can walk into the FCC with almost as much ease. Because
Did you order a hamburger there?
Will it be any good?
Security will take you out of the building.
I'm glad to hear that.
So he can have a reasonable conversation with them instead of a confrontational.
Better, Rick, than reasonable. Former general counsel did not have, we learned afterwards, did not have a good relationship with the FCC.
Right.
David does. He knows everyone. He knows how the system works. He used to work there. So he has their respect. When he talks to them, it's an adult conversation. They may not agree with us, but at least now we get a fair hearing, which we did not get before. We're sitting on top of, or they're sitting on top of, I think, 5 amateur related matters right now, that one of which is over 10 years old. It has nothing to do with the general counsel, or actually, to be precise, the league does not have a general counsel. The league has FCC counsel, which is Siddall. That's written into the bylaws. And we have other attorneys we use, kind of like white rats for
right.
projects. But the reason they aren't moving, and this, I mean, they've told us this, is that we are a small part of what the FCC does.
No doubt.
We used to have a ham that was our contact at the Wireless Bureau. He was responsible for amateur radio. He left. No one in the Wireless Bureau that deals with us is hostile, but they're also not hams.
Right.
And what they've been trying to do for, what is this now, 18 months plus, they said, look, we're going to put all the amateur radio matters together as a package and move them at one time, because they don't have enough staff. And this, what David Siddall says is true. They don't have enough staff to deal with everything they're going to deal with and assign them just to us.
Yeah, they've been really cut back.
So, I mean, the field engineers go, but they are now, with change in administrations, with Ajay Pitt leaving, they're being left with only 4 commissioners. And they're balanced between Democrats and Republicans. Nothing is moving because everyone's waiting to see what the new chairman is going to do. We've been quietly expressing to them our dissatisfaction with that. It's kind of like beating your mother. It's not going to work out well, but
right.
We've made it clear that we understand what their problems are, but some of this stuff is so simple, like removing the limits on amplifiers. Come on, guys. This should have been done when we got rid of the limits on CBs. But we're going to start pushing harder. As soon as they're all back in the building, which is going to happen in the fall, was going to happen by September. But with COVID, they are as screwed as the rest of us.
Yeah.
So basically we have to be ready and organized and prepared, and
we are
have a this is our plan. How can you help us get there kind of thing?
That we've already got. That's been done. It's just waiting for them to move on it. And when they get everyone back in the building, then that's when we'll start pushing harder. And then their target was to have some of this done by last summer. But then, of course, no one could get back in the building. Everyone's working remotely. Then it was going to be by September. No, because they've got another round coming. A couple are moving into the building with another round of COVID, and it's everyone's running uphill on a slippery slope. But by next spring, assuming that all this dies down, almost everything we've got should run. We think we know what the outcome of it is, of everything, but we can't write it. They have to write it.
Yep.
And by the way, if we do this another time, I'll get Sadals to come if you want. And
That'd be great.
And we can tell you, he can describe to you how convoluted getting anything approved is. You would think you get everybody together over that department, everyone goes, oh, we're gonna do this. No, it goes through multiple levels, multiple hands. And if Doug says no, if Doug's in that position, it goes back, start again.
Right.
I mean, if we could take hostages, it'd be a lot simpler, but we can't. So.
It sounds like dealing with Petro Bangla in Bangladesh to get something done. Every little guy, if this thing goes on his desk, if he didn't move it forward, it stays on his desk. Everyone has a pocket veto.
Well, there is a pocket veto. Once it gets to a certain level, if a commissioner does not want the matter to be considered, the commissioner parks it. And when the commissioner parks it, doesn't matter what party they belong to, it has nothing to do with this. If the commissioner has a disagreement with regard to the policy or the outcome, he parks it. He parks it because of the way the organization is structured. It doesn't move. Even taking hostages wouldn't solve that problem. It's almost Byzantine the way it works. And it may be that the commissioner, to use that example, isn't hostile to the group bringing it forward.
Yeah.
It may be hostile to another commissioner. It's a fascinating place. Congress is almost simpler.
Wow.
And that's a lot of fun by itself. But actually, if I can, let me see if I can get it all. And if you want to do that, I'll try and get David to come talk to us sometime.
I'd love that. I think that'd be great.
And I think you should, offer this presentation to the BVARC as well about LOTW.
Actually,
I sent the invitation to be there too. We have.
That's why I'm here. That's why I showed up. I got the email.
Well, I know, but I mean one of their club meetings.
Mike has been told we'll do it. He just hasn't arranged it yet.
Okay.
It'll happen.
So, John, just to summarize what we've, as far as logbook of the world and why and what is, yes, we agree completely that we want ARRL to have an application that is maintainable and robust and so on, which that's going to take a rewrite to accomplish that. And then two, the thing that's being discussed, I won't say proposed yet, but whatever, the idea is no change in user security, specifically away from certificates to something else for identification of uploads. And then the intent is to minimize the changes that the logger applications, and I'll just include all the other applications that go and read the data from the logbook of the world database and do whatever with it.
Correct.
And we're talking about 2 or 3 years before it gets implemented.
Current prediction by the software people who know what we're looking at, 18 months to 24.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
It's a rewrite.
Mission creep will increase it probably, but
right. So 6 months to get to the point where we can, whatever. Okay. So yeah, we can live with that, or I can.
I hope I'm alive when it happens. That's all.
Well, so do we.
But I'll support it anyway.
Hey, if we die before it happens, do we get a refund?
That will be in the mail, trust me.
Yes, trust us, Alan. We'll pay you back.
Thank you.
Just like your life membership. If you don't live long enough, of course we're going to give it back.
I'll either be watching from above or watching from below to see that it happens.
See, you have an option. Those of us who are lawyers have no option on that.
That's right. I might be seeing you.
You might. Anything else I can do for y'all? Any other
No, you're
questions?
doing a great job, John.
Thank you, John.
Well, thank you very much. We
For
sure
a
enjoyed
lawyer.
this, and I think you've enlightened us
thank you.
immensely.
Thanks, John.
Much appreciated.
Thanks, John.
We'll keep you up to date.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you for yours. Okay. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good
And
night.
by the way, anybody want to send me any articles for the bull sheet? I'm waiting for them.
I just emailed you.
Oh, well. Sorry, Ron.
I missed it.
You missed. the
Anybody going to
deadline.
Huntsville this weekend on,
Okay.
on
I'll
this,
put it
in
in
the
next
Zoom meeting?
month.
Anybody going to Huntsville?
The
Okay, two-
earliest
two-
one, earliest Hamfest I'm going to is Belton if it, and only if it looks like things are in good shape.
The last conversation I had with Gerald was that Belton is still go. The only other Hamfest in the West Gulf, Oklahoma and Texas is Ardmore, scheduled at the end of October. And we think they're going to hold it, but COVID could shut it down. But Belton, I'm pretty certain is going to go.
Okay, well, that's good. And just so anybody else that does that kind of stuff, San Antonio changed theirs from January to the summer, same Hamcom weekend, non-Hamcom, whatever.
I think
might as well
Slidell
take
is still
advantage of that
on.
weekend.
Slidell's still going to be in October, I believe, John.
I think so.
Yeah.
Is it really? They're going to try? Okay.
I think I haven't heard that they've canceled it. So
You
Well,
know,
this weekend, I'm going to be doing the NAQP sideband. So
there's discussion trying to get Hamcom revived.
I was wondering about that, really, in Dallas.
In Dallas, Plano, somewhere in the area. Actually, the league is peripherally involved in it. The group that put on Hamcom, I don't think is going to do it again. Fred and Bill and Jim.
Did they take a bath on that whole deal? And
I don't know the details, but I think they did. I think.
yeah,
But there
Wow.
are a number of the clubs in Dallas, Fort Worth area talking about it. We've had conversations in the league, trying to figure out if there's a way we can put it together. The conversations won't get serious until after September.
sure.
But
Well,
it's the fifth largest Hamfest in the country. So
and what happened to it was, see, I communicate with the guys that do the tailgate stuff and tables and that side of it, as opposed to the sessions and the meetings and so on. Okay. And the guys that were involved in buying and selling equipment were just completely upset over the past 4 or 5 years, because every year was some new rule, you couldn't get in till then, you only had this many, you did that, and blah, blah, blah. So whatever they come up with, it's got to be something that can be sustained for a few years.
yeah, it's putting on something the size of Hamcom is a really big endeavor. And the front load, the money to do that is not small either.
Right.
First concerns, where do we get the money to do it? Can we raise that kind of money? And then can you find somebody who knows how to do this, to run it?
Yeah.
Same problem in Houston,
Sir?
same problem we have here.
Yep.
With our Hamfest, same problems. Smaller
Yeah, well,
scale, but
And having it at Fort Bend County Fairgrounds keeps it from being in the middle of the city of Houston somewhere, which is
can't afford to do it. there.
unaffordable.
Can't afford
Yeah.
it. Anything inside, closer inside is unaffordable, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's okay with me where it's at.
Oh, yeah. What
That's
is it,
'cause you
right
live
down
in
the
the
street from you?
5 miles
Docks.
from your house.
I've been talking to Mike and we've been trying to find a way, and we'll start in the fall to get commercial vendors to come. Yesu, ICOM,
Yeah.
Maybe the ones that don't go to Hamcom will come to.
We did
HR,
have ICOM one year, didn't we?
sir.
We had
did.
ICOM 1 year. Yeah.
Yeah.
But there have been serious talks. Mike's done everything he can to get HRO to come. No progress yet, but everyone's still talking to him, trying to get him to put a team down there.
That'd be nice. They've ignored us up till now.
Mike's talked to him, I think, every year since they opened up in Dallas.
Yeah.
Robert in California makes the final decision. And he's been unwilling to do it so far, but we're going to keep at him and nag him.
So do they feel like they lose money on it? Is that what the problem is?
Yeah, it's a cost thing.
The cost can be eliminated. And they have to move at least 2 people. They've got to move the tables, they've got to move the radios. And then you've got the people there for the weekend, food, hotel. But a number of Hamfest have offered to pay, not just for HRO, but other vendors, pay for the hotel, pay for the food. Tables are free just to get them there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But none of, assuming that that's been offered, and I can't say that it has, you have to ask
right.
Alan would know, but no bites yet. But in terms of if that were done, they can't lose money because anything you sell is free
Right.
with all the costs covered.
Well, and Houston has the interesting situation of there is no ham store in Houston. There is, there's no place. So. Oh,
So
well,
it's kind of like a hungry group of kids waiting for the ice cream truck.
you would think so. Well, again, we're back to hams and sounds like a bunch of chickens instead of pigs, but whatever, just cheap.
I'd like to see Maine Trading show up again.
Is he going to stay in business?
Well,
I
he
think
was
so.
in Bossier City a couple of weeks ago
Okay.
at the Bossier City Ham Fest. So
It's down the street for him.
He intends to stay in business, but I think he's started sharply limiting where he goes.
I agree. But the year we had ICOM was the same year we had DX Engineering, and I think there was a link between the two guys. And I think the DX Engineering people coerced ICOM to get down there.
DX has that ability to do the, yes.
We could play nice with them. We might be able to get more help.
Well, I'll try and Shanghai Tim Duffy and see if we can get him to send somebody down. So
Yeah. He actually came down that year and it was great.
as Rick pointed out, again, it's a candy store if you can get them down there. So
Yeah.
Cool.
Thank
Okay.
you, John.
Okay, well,
Off to
thanks.
see the wizard.
thank you, everybody. Y'all
Good
take
night.
care.
John, thank you for your
Thank
time.
you, John.
Be safe.
Okay, John, 73.
See y'all later.
John.